So, Esther went to Taco Bell. Everyone was there. They were all waiting for her. And they allowed Esther to walk in first. And I think the idea was they were just showing great respect for their instructor. And at the counter was one of her Chinese cousins that had helped Brandy and Esther move into their new apartment. And so Esther was real excited about that. And in Chinese, she said, "Hello, cousin Lunge." And it was good to see him. And she thanked him again for helping move her aunt and her. And that it was wonderful to be there tonight. That she was very hungry, and she brought a lot of friends that all loved Taco Bell. And her cousin was very impressed that she had remembered his name. And he said it was good to see her, and that his brother would be very envious that he wasn't there to greet her. And Esther immediately in Chinese said, "Well, how is your brother?" And his name, she remembered it too, Cousin Fu. And so immediately Cousin Lung realized that Esther remembered his brother's name too, and was impressed with that. And he said that his brother was getting ready to open a second Taco Bell at the west end of the street. And Esther said, "That is wonderful news, that everybody loves Taco Bell, and she believes that he will do very well with another Taco Bell." And so Raven, standing next to Esther, kind of nudged her along. And so Esther changed to English and said, "We'd better place our orders. We're with the exciting W.O.W. twins tonight, and they have offered to buy our dinner. And they're soon to become extremely famous in the World Organization of Wrestlers, because now they're going to be part of the Beau Jackson team." And Esther said that rather proudly. And her cousin followed W.O.W. wrestling, and he was impressed too. And so they all started giving their orders. They sat down, and the food was very quickly prepared. They all enjoyed it very much. Tracy said something about how affordable it was to feed everybody, and the food was so good and filling. And Danielle agreed. She said it was one of her favorite restaurants to eat at. And so at the end of eating, everybody decided to say goodnight. And Brandy was going to take the twins home. Esther was going to do a little errand of her own. She wanted to go to a new up and coming, very popular restaurant bar called the Blue Onion, and that is where Stella Irene was performing tonight. And so she got on her motorcycle and took off for the Blue Onion, and she had mentioned it to Day, and Day was going to follow. Well, John overheard this, and he asked Day if she mind if he would follow also, and Day said of course not. So Esther arrived on her Ninja at the Blue Onion and waited for her sister, and then John pulled in too behind her. So they walked up to the door, spoke to the man at the front and said, "We have reservations for Esther Saint." And he checked his book and he said, "Yes, walk on in." And Esther told the next person that she had a table reserved for Esther Saint, and they showed her to a nice table in the front center of the stage. This restaurant was the idea of several German investors, and they hired a lot of German people. So they weren't real hungry. They mainly wanted to see the Stella Irene perform. So they ordered some shrimp cocktails, which Esther thought would be easy to eat, and a large ticket that would merit a large tip for the waiter. And so they placed their order, and the show started. And Stella Irene came out and said her name and that she would be performing for the next 36 minutes to entertain them. And it was country music. It was very good. She had steel guitar in the band, which Esther thought was fantastic. And after the performance, John said to Esther, "You know, that was really a good performance, but it just lacked something, and I think that's lighting. She needs someone staging her lighting for her." And Esther realized that he was right, and she thought to herself out loud, she says, "Well, maybe Uncle Hung has a family that maybe could help give Stella Irene some lighting." So Esther was going to follow up on that. So at that point, a very large German man, assuming he's German, walked up to the table, gave his name as Mario Weinstein, and he asked if everything was good tonight, if they enjoyed themselves, and John and Day immediately said yes, everything was wonderful. And then he turned to Esther and he spoke to her in German, and he said that Otto and Axel said that Esther was under their protection, and Esther said, "Well, I am good friends with both of them, and they are under my protection too." And she said all this in German. Mario looked at her and he realized that everything that he had heard about her was true. And so he said, Esther Saint, you and your friends are welcome anytime. Use my name at the front and tell them anytime you want, and you can have a table and come in and enjoy yourself. And then he leaned forward and gave her a kiss on the cheek and said, thank you for coming tonight. And he walked away. They asked Esther, do you trust that man? And Esther said, well, my dad said Germans are slow to trust people. But when he kissed me on the cheek, that was a sign that he trusted me. And so if he trusts me, I'm fairly certain I can trust him. And then Esther said, of course, within limits. And she kind of grinned. So she said, tomorrow's a school day. Let's leave and go home. And so Esther looked at the ticket on the table and it said no charge. So she left $100 tip anyway. And they all went outside, started their ninjas. And Esther had said today, why don't you stay at my house tonight and you can say goodbye to the twins in the morning. And Day said, I had told Dad I probably would be staying the night. Day said, I think he's getting used to that. And so Day said, I'll see ya at home. And so they all took off. At Esther's apartment, Day and Esther walked in together, and there's a note on the countertop from Danielle and Tracy, and it said, this is our last night. Please sleep with us in our large bed tonight. And Esther said today, you know, it seems like we have two big sisters. Are you okay with that? And they said, yes. They are wonderful big sisters. And Esther said, well, I'm going to do my evening exercise, but you look pretty tired. If you want, you go ahead and join the twins. And in about a little more than an hour, I'll join you three. And they said, I am tired, and so I wonder what kind of dreams we'll have tonight. And they went off to the bedroom. Esther did her exercises, spent a little time on the computer, and did some correspondence with friends from around the world. And she took a quick shower and then joined Day and the twins in bed. She fell asleep very quickly. She was on the side of Danielle, and Dave was between the twins. So, I think it was close to almost 4 hours, Esther woke up, went into the bathroom and sat down on the toilet. And oddly enough, they came in half awake and said, wow, that was a really, really creepy dream I had. And Ester said, Satan always loses in the end. So believe me that love and goodness will always defeat hate and punishment. And they repeated, but that was a really creepy dream, Esther said. But goodness will win. Satan will always lose. And Esther looked at her and smiled. She got up off the toilet and Day sat down on it and said, thank you for warming the toilet. And Day thought she was very hilarious. And at that moment, the twins woke up and came out. They were half awake, and Danielle said, I think I had a dream, but I can't remember it. And Tracy said, I don't remember any dreams at all. I just remember going to bed and waking up. And she said, is it time to be up? And Esther said, well, if you want, you can sleep for another hour before you need to get up and get ready to leave. And Tracy realized, oh yes, this is our last day here. The 3 days went so quickly. And Danielle said, yes, but I've been kind of missing being on the road with the professional wrestlers. It's our job, and it's exciting to entertain people. Tracy nodded. Well, the twins ended up staying up. So Esther made a wonderful breakfast. They all got into the Escalade. They did the driving, and they went to the airport, but they had to drop them off at the front of the airport in order to get to school on time. And Esther said, well, they're on their own now, but they're used to that, and now they're going to be more qualified in the ring to protect themselves than ever. So I feel good about that. So Day and Esther took off for school. The twins were off for a road organization of wrestlers match, and I believe it was St. Louis, Missouri, and they were going to be with Beau Jackson.